Dr. Rob Zatechka, hello, sir. Where the hell you been?
Oh, my God. Working and then Florida.
Okay, so, I was working and then Italy for 2 weeks.
How was Italy?
Italy was good. This was actually, this was my 16th time to Italy.
When are you just going to expatriate and move there?
No, because it's a beautiful country. I love to visit. We went for 2 weeks this time. It's still not economically a place that you want to settle down. So I just think my 2 weeks, I go twice a year. It's perfect.
Now, when you say that, is it like, okay, I don't have enough to retire there yet? Or is it's a place where it's hard to go there and make money?
One, it's hard to go there and make money. They have more Italians leaving Italy because they can't be entrepreneurs and make money because the government takes about 70% of what you make just right away.
Woof.
Yeah, 70% gone.
I heard the politics there just...
And every time they get a new prime minister, they have to form a brand new government. So there's a lot of instability there, but it's still beautiful. They thrive on tourism. Americans show up. They cater to them. They do everything to make sure they have a good time. And
well, your wife was posting pictures.
Yes, and then
always amazing. The food looks. I mean, Italy's like it's a foodie's heaven.
It is, and I ate and believe it. Everybody thinks Italy's known for pasta, which it is. Red meat is really big.
You said their pork and beef is the best in the world.
Yeah, because the pork is the cinghiali, which is the wild boar, but their beef is absolutely incredible. It rivals Nebraska beef, and I hate to say this, it might even be a little bit better. Might be better.
That's impressive.
Now, my brother is an expat in Portugal. He's been in Portugal for about 5 years now. But see, he was never married, no kids, retired at 55. Because, when you don't have any kids or any responsibility, you can save a hell of a lot of money. So he was able to, live in Portugal. And he's got that golden visa, so he can stay there for like 10 years before he has to decide where he wants to go. So, yeah.
Be kind of interesting.
Yeah.
World's getting to be a smaller place.
It really, really is. My first day there, I was at a winery and I met somebody from Nebraska. And I'm like, what a small world. They were from Lincoln. I go, this is a really small world. You go 4,000 miles away from home and you're sitting in a winery in the middle of Tuscany with somebody from Lincoln, Nebraska. It's just...
Do you remember their name? I probably know them.
I don't. I forget. So I'm bad that way.
Okay.
I'm bad that way. It's the off season. Spring practice starts tomorrow. We're recording this on Sunday, and we're going to continue our off-season tradition of having a guest in, and the king of content. We're going to call him the king of content. Adam Carriker joins us on the Doc Talk podcast. This has taken like a year to get you in the studio. You understand that? You and I have been texting each other for a year. You're a hard man to pin down.
It's a busy guy.
He is.
Well, first of all, thank you for having me. I've been looking forward to it for a long time. I was on the podcast about 3 years ago.
Yep.
Not in person.
That was by phone. You were still living in Colorado.
I was my daughters were warming up for a softball game. I went to the car and I did it over the phone in the car. I remember that because it was like a freezing cold day too. But no, I'm glad to be here. I appreciate you guys having me.
I said you're the king of content. You do put out a lot of content. Before we went on, we were just talking how hard it is to consistently put out content. Rob and I do it weekly during the season. We've tried to do a lot more during the offseason. It's hard. I mean, you put out a ton of content with the Character Chronicles, haven't you?
Yeah, so we were talking when we decided to move last January. I didn't do anything from January to August 1st when I brought the show back, just with the move and everything else. And I miss talking about the men and the women in the NCAA's tournament last year in basketball. I miss talking about the Big Ten championship for baseball. And man, this is what I want to do. I love doing this. And I mentioned to you when I was growing up, I wasn't allowed to play football for a long time. So basketball is actually my favorite sport. I actually thought I would do something after high school in baseball. So when it comes to football, basketball, baseball/softball, I enjoy those things. And I watch them and I'm like, well, why the hell don't I just sit down and talk about them? And then you got year-round content. It's what I love doing anyway. So,
which is one of those things where when you look at sources for this, I feel like there's been a big quality drop-off in the traditional sources of content, which it's like ESPN.
Mm-hmm.
And it's one of these things now where you can go and find, okay, I want Nebraska sports. I want specific Nebraska sports. I want just college football in general. I mean, the rise of people doing everything from podcasts to I don't even know if I'd call what you do a podcast. It's basically, it's a one-man news show.
I don't know what I'd call it either.
Yeah, but I mean, it's one of these things where it's nice having this because because I listen to your stuff all the time. Yeah. And it's nice having the ability to like pick and choose and go, oh, okay, here's the source I want, and I can go get it right here.
Yeah, it's funny. People are like, they call it a show, they call it video, some call it a podcast. I've never given it a label. I guess I do call it a show. I got to give it something. But for me, in the off season, I try to do by the way, I want to have you on at some point, but I've been doing like one interview a week. Okay. And then I'll just do a bunch of shorts on YouTube, baseball. Like I talked about Dion wanting to go against other teams in the spring game, which I don't know if you like that. I love that idea.
See, I love that idea.
We've been promoting that for years. We're like, you know, because let's use basketball as an example. These basketball teams go play these secret scrimmages. Like Drake and Texas Tech played in the NCAA tournament yesterday. They had a secret back in like June. Mm-hmm. I'm like, okay, if basketball can go play a basketball game against somebody, why can't you guys both played in the NFL during your
we would go do.
You would go to other people's practices, right?
We
would have like weekend long.
Yes.
I don't know. What do you want to call them?
What's the benefit of going, let's say Colorado and Nebraska get together to do a joint spring practice. What is the benefit of that?
I don't know if I would do it with Colorado. I would do it with a non-Big Ten team and a non-rival. Otherwise, the practices might get a little insane because you're going to have up competition and you're probably going to have an uptick in, I don't want to say fisticuffs, but a few more fights, and that's okay. But you go pick a rival, and it might get crazy. So I would do like they're talking about Colorado and Syracuse possibly doing something, or Florida State. Mike Norvell said he didn't hate the idea. He'd be open to it. Like, I think those are good matches. If you want to, you can do Northern Iowa if you're Nebraska.
See, that's what I was thinking.
Yeah, but they play this year, don't they? No, they played last year.
I wouldn't do an opponent. I wouldn't do a conference or a rival. For me personally, I would do someone equal to. Now, you could do greater than, you could do less than, but I want to get better. If you go do, with all due respect, Northern Iowa, are you getting better, or are you just going against someone else for the sake of going against someone else?
No, that's fair. That's fair.
To me, I like the uptick of competition.
I mean, I'm watching some of these FCS teams. I mean, North Dakota State hung with damn near beat Colorado.
There's good football there.
So, I mean, you could do I could see doing like a North Dakota State, South Dakota State, somebody like that. I know my son goes to school at Augustana, and last spring they went down to Northwest Missouri State. And
that's where you broke your ankle, by the way.
No. That was at a wrestling.
No, that's
tournament.
where you were wearing the Gdefy Shoes.
That was the first time I had my Gdefy on, and I'm like, oh my God, my ankle doesn't hurt anymore. I'm like hoofing it all over Northwest Missouri State's campus, checking out the Bearcats digs.
So it's not against NCAA rules to do that? Then why haven't we've been playing these stupid spring games forever? Why haven't more teams done this? Is it fear of injury? Is it fear of
Yeah, but I mean, you've got that for your own scrimmages. You're going to have that same risk, I would think. I don't know. I think it makes it way more interesting. And I mean, now we're not really doing a true fan-attended, televised spring game anymore. In my mind, doing a spring game against another team would have been an amazing experience for fans.
Ever since I was in high school, I've always thought spring games should be against another team, and I would always get shouted down. So I didn't talk about it as much. For me, the big concern that people express and that pop into my head, number one is the poaching of players, which to me is a very real thing with the post-spring portal opening.
Well, now that you got the portal, I mean, I'm thinking back to when we played.
Well,
that would have been amazing.
I'm saying a couple years from now, there's a very real possibility that portal will not open again after spring. And then you don't even have that concern. So then it's just the injuries. Somebody pointed out to me, they're like, hey, Adam, just do basic math. If you're doing a spring game versus yourself, there's 22 players on the field. If you're going against someone else, there's only 11. So that significantly reduces the amount of potential injuries. But the competition is going to be much more dude, it's monotonous hitting you guys every freaking day in the spring and all throughout camp. Hitting somebody else, you're naturally going to go harder and get more out of it. So it's more quality reps. And I could argue no more greater risk of injury, maybe less, just based on the numbers, depending on how you want to look at it.
I hadn't thought about the numbers thing.
I hadn't either. That's a phenomenal point.
That is a genius point. So whoever made that point to you,
my friend Josh,
tell Josh kudos.
Yeah, I thought that was a great point.
That's a great point.
Yeah, I can't believe more teams just haven't done this. I mean, since it's not, I was always under the belief that it was against NCAA rules, and if it's not, I'm like, well, because you could travel. You could make your travel whatever you want. You don't have to spend a ton on travel. You could fly in and fly out the same day. And it's not like Nebraska doesn't have the money to rent a plane and get everybody on.
Well, and I think what's weird too is that it's not uncommon at lower division levels. So D2 football, D3 football, NAIA. I think you see that it's not unheard of there. That's why I find when it got brought up, when Dion brought it up, everybody was like, whoa, here, crazy guy. Hold on a second. It kind of surprised me because I'm sitting here going, okay, well, I'm seeing it in D2 football. Guys do this all the time. I've always wondered why we didn't do it at the D1 level. The player poaching thing, it'll be interesting to see how fast the closure of that spring portal happens because all of a sudden it's sort of this, this is now a concern. And all of a sudden you saw these spring games falling like dominoes here just this year. All of a sudden everybody's like, yep, we're not doing a spring game.
I think so I love Troy Dannon. When he talked about the injury risk, and that's why we're not doing the spring game, when it was first talked about not doing it, I didn't buy into it because I've seen NFL preseason games and how those work.
That sounded bullshit. I love Troy. We love you.
Yeah, you know Troy. I've known Troy for almost 30 years.
I didn't buy it. When Matt Rule said the poaching thing, I was like, wait, that makes a lot of sense. Because now all these guys that show well in the spring game that may not start for you, but they're young and up and coming, boom, other teams are trying to take them. Like, that's a real problem. If that's gone, why aren't we doing something like this? If that issue's gone in a year or two.
You know what I've always said about guys who performed well in the spring game? They were just spring game stars.
It's true. It's true.
I mean, that's all they were. You know?
Okay, yeah.
To a degree.
It's always that one backup quarterback who lights it up. But I mean, otherwise, I've seen a lot of guys do well in the spring game, and you sit there and go, okay, this guy's going to be a pretty damn good football player in a year or so.
It's the young guys, I think, Rule was concerned about that are up and coming, and that's who would stick out to me as well.
You mentioned you think the spring portal is going to go away. I've had this conversation a lot on my radio show, and that is, what does a portal window look like? And to me, it should be just at the end of every semester, right? I mean, that's when school, if we're talking about school, the semester ends in December, portal opens. Semester ends in May, portal opens.
But that's that spring portal we're talking about, that where that risk is.
There's always going to be risk though, right?
Yeah. I mean, I think to a degree, I don't know. That's you know what? It's a good question.
My thought is I'm fine with it after the season. They need to recalibrate the entire college football offseason and season. Like, why are we having our draft signing day in the middle of our playoffs? Also, at the same time, there's free agency, which is the portal opening. It's all asinine.
Because coaches wanted that early signing period, right?
It needs to all be reallocated, but I don't know if you want to sit here and talk about that for hours.
We could.
But with the portal opening at the end of the season, I'm okay with that. But if you want spring games back, and if you want what we're talking about, which is potentially something I've always thought was very exciting, like let's say we did do Colorado. As a fan, I love that. As a coach, I'd be like, I don't know. We're just going to, maybe that'd be too much. Let's go do Syracuse or something, whoever you want to play. You've got to close that portal window, and there's got to be some sort of parameters. It's too crazy right now. Kids can't just come and go willy-nilly all the time the way they can right now. There's got to be some parameters brought in. I do know it's coming. I do know there's a body, I forget what it's called. I'm struggling with the name. Basically, there's going to be a body or entity of people that are actually going to enforce rules. It's not the NCAA, which is a laughingstock and a joke. It's an actual body of people, I forget the name, that's coming at some point that's going to actually enforce rules. And I think that's going to help. But also, just having the portal open at certain times is going to help other things as well. And if you want spring games, dude, I would tune in for spring games on TV, and I'd be excited to watch, I don't know, just pick Florida State and Cal. I guess they're both in the ACC, so bad example. Why they're in the ACC is ridiculous.
It's hard to narrow down who's where anymore,
I would watch that. There's a Stanford girl on the Love volleyball team, and she just joined right before the season because we went to the match the other night, and I'm reading her accolades, and I'm like, first team all ACC. Is this a misprint? Oh, no, it's not. They're in the ACC now for some reason. So.
Yeah. Yeah. We were talking before we started recording in that, the off-season hype, it gets monotonous talking about off-season hype just because you're either selling hope or you're selling misery. And during the off-season, it's always hope. But has this been, besides the spring game, this seems to be one of the least talked about off seasons that I can remember. I mean,
and there's big changes.
There's big changes coming, but it just seems, I remember when I was working in television, we'd be covering, winter workouts and all this stuff. It just seems a little quiet. I actually kind of like it. Do you guys like the quietness of or am I reading it wrong?
I don't know. I was thinking about this earlier because one of my questions at some point I want to circle back to this with you is talking about the new defensive staff and like what kind of impact is that going to have on this season? But you start thinking about that and I'm like, God, there's a lot of stuff going on here this off season where you got essentially a damn near a completely new defensive staff. You've got the roster limit coming. You've got the no spring game thing coming, which when we did the spring game, I'm assuming it was probably fairly similar to you. It was basically 2 or 3 practices during the week and a Saturday scrimmage.
Mm-hmm. Yes.
Repeat times 4.
Yes.
And the spring game was just the 4th of those big Saturday scrimmages. My assumption is they're still going to do that.
I think
it's not going to be, hey, we're going to pack 70,000 people into the stadium and televise it on the Big Ten network.
Talking about the spring game itself?
Yeah, they're just going to have that last scrimmage still, though, correct? That would be my assumption. They're just not going to televise it, and they're not going to have fans in attendance.
And not make money off of it.
Well, that's what the Husker Games is supposed to be about. I don't know if that's what it's officially called.
I can't. I have zero interest.
I call it the Husker Games because in my mind it makes me chuckle. The Hunger Games, the Squid Games. That's what I think of. Well, maybe a terrible correlation.
It's like what the Pro Bowl turned into.
Yes,
which was a little
stupid.
It was a little sketch at the time they had.
It's still sketch. Nobody's watching it.
Well, because it's now, isn't it like flag football?
It's just they've got
skill. They do the skills games and then they do a flag football game. I'm just like, okay, this is the dumbest thing ever.
Yeah.
Have your all pro teams, have your player and fan voted Pro Bowl team, and just
look at the NBA All-Star, look at the Major League Baseball game All-Star game, look at the NHL All-Star game. They're just, nobody's putting any effort into
the
it
NBA.
Anymore.
I don't know why. I always felt like the NBA made it halfway in.
Not anymore.
Fun.
Not anymore. It's just because they just want the paycheck and they don't want to risk injury, so they don't play defense. Yeah, growing up for me, and I'm older than both of you guys, but Rob,
like a year.
Yeah, but you're closer to me. But the Major League Baseball All-Star game back in the 70s and 80s was incredible. They hated each other. Then interleague play started, and it just kind of went away, right? Interleague play, to me, ruined Major League Baseball. Now, there's going to be a lot of people who disagree with me on that, but...
That is a bold statement.
It is.
I remember the first interleague game, the first pitch, the catcher knew they were going to save that for the Hall of Fame showcase or whatever, and he talked about how weird that moment was. So you think it ruined... We don't have to go down this rabbit hole if you don't want to. It ruined baseball?
Yeah, to me, because now it doesn't make any difference now that the National League, American League, there's no difference. It used to be a style of play. It used to be a whole bunch.
That's true.
Now you have designated hitter in
I wish they didn't have that in the NL.
Yeah, so there's really no difference. And if you look at it, most nights it's interleague play every single night. It's like, okay, it used to be like you had your interleague time frame. Now it's just gone away. But again, I'm a traditionalist and I hold on to things, and I have a hard time moving my cheese on certain issues.
When you look at the All-Star games, they tried to make the Major League Baseball All-Star game interesting the stupidest way possible. Whatever side wins, that team gets home field advantage in the World Series.
See,
and that's gone away.
I hated that.
Yeah.
I kind of like
You did.
Yeah. It puts stakes on it.
I get that, but the team with the better record should have home field advantage come the World Series, in my opinion.
And
that's what I thought.
Okay.
There is strong merit there too. I guess I was looking at it purely from are you going to put stakes on this or not?
Okay.
The All-Star game itself alone? Well, that makes sense.
Okay.
And I would love to see some way to have...
We digress here, but I'm going to go to the National Football League because the Lions are putting out a rule proposal to change the way the playoffs are seeded, going by record and not necessarily divisional winners.
I've been waiting for that because college football wants to do it the same way.
Yeah, well, and it should. I mean,
well, and they botched the seeding this year's playoffs. I mean, you get, what was it, a 7 and an 8 seed in the title game.
Yeah.
I mean, that was stupid.
Yeah, I mean, we know that college football, I think eventually, because the SEC and the Big Ten have so much power, will get what they want there, and it'll be natural seeding. But the NFL's always done it this way, and the Lions have said, well, hold on for a second. We're in the NFC. Are they in the North?
The North.
Yeah, which was one of the best divisions out there. You have 11 or 12 wins, and a team that wins 9 games wins a division, but has a better will get home field.
So can I play devil's advocate?
Absolutely.
Because I actually like the way the NFL does it right now. And I know I may be in the minority, and I'm okay with that. So if you remember week 18, because they play 17 games now, that Sunday night game was the Vikings and the Lions for the NFC North Championship and the number 1 seed. And if you lost, you dropped to the 5th seed.
Yeah.
My kids were like, why does it work like that? And I looked at them and I said, because winning a division matters. And I said, their records are going to be much worse, but to me, winning a division matters. And that's why I like it the way it is. The Rams, I don't know their exact record, 10-7, whatever it was, they had home field advantage over a 14-3 Vikings team because they won their division, and I like that. And then they killed the Vikings, but that's besides the point. Personally, I like winning a division or a conference, and it matters.
Rob?
And I think sometimes that does play into things. The thing I don't like about it, in terms of winning your division, is that in the NFL, all wins and losses matter. So, like, let's take a college team, for instance. You can go, let's say you're a college team, hugely talented, you just haven't really gelled or found that chemistry yet, and you can lose 2 out of 3 non-conference games. So you're going into the conference season 1 and 2. You're not looking all that good, but let's say all of a sudden you kind of gel and everything clicks for everybody and you rattle off 9 in a row to win your conference title. Mm-hmm. Okay, you just won your conference title, but you're 10-2. You got 2 losses there on the schedule. Those losses don't count against your conference title.
I get it.
In the NFL, it doesn't work that way. A non-divisional win and a non-divisional loss count towards that winning that divisional title. So non-divisional games, they do matter, which I do like that. Mm-hmm. But it's kind of one of those, when I look at winning the division, I see teams that have I've seen teams win divisions with a horrible divisional record.
Yep.
But they won all their non-divisional games. So it's kind of one of those.
I completely get it. It can go.
Yeah, that always, I have a hard time wrapping my head around a team that wins a division, but they might actually be in terms of just the divisional games, they might not have actually the best record in terms of intra-divisional games.
Well, there's been 2 teams that have won their division over the years with a sub-500 record. The year after the Saints won the Super Bowl, they played the Seahawks in Seattle, and that's when they played 16 games. The Seahawks record was 7-9, but it was a horrible NFC West division that year. And so they won the division. I was okay with that. I'm personally okay with that. I would like division and conference championships to matter. I think of Purdue because it's Drew Brees. But if the Saints want a whole field advantage, go win your division. That's how I look at it, and I know it's a little bit unique, though. So you know who I thought of when you were talking about getting hot at the right time in Ohio State this year?
Yeah,
they
100%.
Finished 4th in the Big Ten and won a national title.
Yeah.
That still blows my mind.
But they were the best team in college football, hands down.
They were the hottest team at the right time.
They had the most talent.
I said they had the most talented team.
They were close to the most talented, and they got hot at the right time.
If you look at the talent composite rankings, number 1 was actually Bama. They just had a ton of true freshmen in their secondary. I said in August, I'm picking Ohio State. My biggest question mark is Ryan Day. Can he do it? Obviously, he can now. And Will Howard, I didn't know. I was like, if he was at Kansas State, he wouldn't even be starting right now. And that wasn't a slam. It was just that's how he ended up somewhere else. And then the 2 teams with the 2 worst losses of the entire season played for the national title. Northern Illinois and Michigan, and Notre Dame and Ohio State had those 2 losses yet. They played for the national title.
You know, the crazy thing about Ohio State, I think the loss to Michigan was the wake-up call. After that, in the entire playoff, they played with like nothing to. It was like they were so tight against
It's
Michigan.
what they needed.
It's
honestly.
what they needed.
Yes.
You know,
I won't argue with that.
You know, losing to Oregon, a lot of people still look at that one and look how that thing ended. And that wasn't a bad loss going to Eugene. But losing at home to Michigan.
It was a 1 point loss.
Came down to the last play of the game.
Yeah, I don't fault them.
I didn't have
for
an issue with that loss.
Yeah, but losing to Michigan, it was like they were so tight. They were so, you know, they were playing not to lose instead of playing to win.
They tried to out Michigan.
Yes.
That's not who they are.
Yeah.
Well, and you also had the Nebraska game. I mean, Nebraska, I hate using the phrase should have won. Nebraska should have won that game.
You know, we had the lead with 7 minutes to go, right? You remember that?
Yeah, that was brutal. The other thing and here's the other thing that I love about an expanded playoff. I've been beating the playoff drum for years.
I've seen you on social media.
There are teams that, and the reason I love playoffs, I used to hate it. I used to always think it's like never, ever get rid of the bowl system. This is the most unique. It's the greatest thing in college football. Screw FCS, D2, everybody else who has an actual playoff. Bowl system's the best. And then we had that first year of the playoff, which Ohio State goes on, well, it's a 2-game run. But they win the Big Ten, go to the playoff, and just boom, boom, knock out a couple of huge wins in the playoff to win the national title. And I'm like, okay, that was fun. We need way more of this. And I've been kind of beating that drum ever since. But there are some teams that are going to hit a playoff like Ohio State did this year, because I don't think anybody thought, well, you did. But I think a lot of people looked at that Michigan game and went, okay, Ohio State got in. They ain't winning this shit. And they did, and it wasn't even close for the Texas game was, that was a good game. I thought that was a fun game to watch. Texas was in it the whole game. But you see these teams get hot, they hit the playoff, and some teams are just built for playoff football.
Do you think we ever have a well, even in the NCAA basketball tournament this year, you know, Drake got beat last night, McNeese got beat. Do you ever think you have a Cinderella run in the college football playoff? I know everybody says the playoff gives that possibility. I think you can have a 1-game upset. I don't think a Cinderella.
Do you have?
I don't think a Sun Belt, you know.
I think you do.
Really? Boise didn't do it? SMU didn't do it?
I think that bye hurt them. 0-4. The teams with the 4 byes went 0-4.
Yeah, that's true.
Yeah,
That 25-day layoff killed those teams.
I agree. See, that's the bowl game syndrome
in the
my
playoffs,
book, where
which doesn't work.
The one thing with bowl games is every so often you think you're a pretty good team, and you get to that bowl game, and it's just you haven't played a game in a month, and that timing's off, and I hated that.
So FCS,
as a
D2,
player, I love the bowl games. I loved the system at the time. It's what we knew. But I hated that month gap because I felt like if we're lucky, third quarter we'll finally get our time.
So FCS, D2, D3, they start like the next week after the fight. Do you wish Division I because the playoff went all the way up to February? Or really late
January 20th or 27th.
So that's pretty late.
That.
Would you like to see it start like the week after the conference title games?
I could see doing a 2-week gap.
2-week gap?
I mean, if you're like, oh, we need a break here, I could see doing a 2-week gap. I mean, I would like to see it expanded, go 16 teams so you don't have the bye. Because honestly, I know a lot of people are like, oh, no, you want to reward those teams with a bye. And I'm like, I don't know if that's a reward for the very reason.
It depends on how it's laid out.
Yeah, the very point you made. But I mean, again, I'm a D2 football junkie now. You see a lot of those teams you see there's a lot of those 1 seeds with who do get a bye in D2 football. Those 1 seeds get beat a weird amount of time. I mean, it's a lot.
So a couple of thoughts, not to backtrack, but I meant to say this earlier. So Magic Johnson, who's been a part of the NBA for 40 years, I just saw an interview he did. He said this is the first time in 40 years he didn't watch any part, slam dunk, 3-point, or the game itself of All-Star Weekend. And that's how bad it's gotten to him.
Yeah.
Just to backtrack. But to bring it back, are you guys aware of what's being proposed for the playoff in the future?
Well, you got we're going to 14 teams?
The 14 or 16 is the proposal.
Yeah.
I would love 16 and just.
So the two proposals that are on the table, and it's driven by the Big Ten and SEC because they've got all the power, and they're basically saying, give us what we want or we're going to take more of your teams to seed and do our own thing. And there's nothing you can do about it, and there's nothing they can do about it. So what they are proposing is the top 6 teams from the Big Ten, the top 6 teams from the SEC, the top 4 from the Big 12, the top 4 from the ACC. So the Big Ten and SEC would be a little bit different because there's 6. But in the ACC and the Big 12, there'd be no championship game. There would be 2 automatic bids.
So that's 20 teams.
Well, if we get down to it, it's actually 24, which was pointed out to me by my producer, Jake, on the tickets.
So 6 and 6.
So there's play-in games.
Okay,
there's play-in games.
gotcha.
But after I talked about the whole thing, Jake goes, if we do a 16-team playoff, it's really a 24-team playoff when you factor in the play-in games. And I was like, yeah, you're right. They figured out a way to make it 24 teams. But there would be 2 automatic bids from the ACC, 2 from the Big 12. So one would play 4 in the ACC and Big 12. The winner gets in 2 and 3. Okay, and that's how they would get in. So there'd be no championship game. In the Big 10 and SEC, it depends on if there's 14 or 16 teams. So if there's 14 teams, all right, 3 would play 6, 4 would play 5, and the winner of those games would get 2 of the 4 automatic bids from the Big 10 and SEC. But then 1 and 2, if it's a 14-team playoff, would play each other. The loser would still get in. It would be the third of the automatic teams, but the team that wins would get an automatic 1 or 2 seed in the 14-team playoff if it's 14 teams and a bye. Does that make sense?
See, and I actually kind of like that. And the reason I say I like that, because it opens the door for a couple more teams to get in.
Does that format make sense?
Yeah.
It does, but I don't like it. And let me tell you, we're overcomplicating this. But I understand what the Big Ten and the SEC are doing. You have a college football playoff poll, right? And therefore, if you're going to have 24 teams, your top 24 teams, there they are. Why have a fucking poll if you're not going to use it?
Because it's a business.
I get it.
They want their guaranteed amount of teams in.
I get it. I totally get it.
Yeah.
But to me, if you're going to have it was kind of like this year's seeding. We overcomplicated it by saying, well, the highest ranked non-Power 5 gets in, and then it just confused everything. And like you said, you didn't have the top 2 teams probably played for the national title, but they weren't seeded that way.
Correct.
Right? And I'm like, if you have a poll, just use the poll.
Which I will say, like the top 2 seeds were what? Oregon and Georgia?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
The bye killed them, but go ahead.
I don't think those were bad seedings. I actually thought going in, if you would ask me, who do I think is the best 2 teams? Yeah, it probably is Oregon and Georgia.
Yeah,
I mean, Georgia beat Texas twice during the season.
I guess if you want to have a true national championship, guaranteeing so many teams from a certain league doesn't necessarily mean you have a true national championship.
Yeah, but I think if you're looking at it in the sense that the 2 leagues that are running the show with the Big Ten and the SEC, I mean, okay, we had a playoff that I would say it wasn't the best system, but I'm going to call it was the most fair system that we had.
Have we gone to the dark side here?
No, we just that's what happens if we have automatic lights. Owen just needs to go walk around and turn the lights on.
But I mean, 12 teams is, in my opinion, way more fair than 4 teams in a playoff. You're giving these teams a shot. You got teams that can go on a run and win a title. I'm trying to remember where I was going with this point now. The lights threw me off. But it's from a seeding standpoint and from where these teams are ranked. I thought the 2 best teams ultimately still ended up in the title game.
I would agree with you on that.
And so when you talk about
well, that goes back to what I said earlier. Your chances of a Cinderella are gone. I mean, to me,
I don't think they are gone. And I'll circle back to that in a second. I'm just saying, I think it's still, even if you use that system that you just walked through, you're still going to have, there's a dynamic of playoffs where, and it happened this year, were the two teams that, if you really want to argue, were probably the two best teams during the regular season. Oregon and Georgia, they got beat. So you got to be able to differentiate between best and, well, who's the best in the playoff? Those are two different things sometimes, and we saw that happen this year. So it's one of those, well, if you're not going to have the two best teams in the playoff, that system's still going to have the two best teams in the playoff. It's going to have the two teams that are going to win it, and you're going to look back and go, yeah, whether they were the best or they got hot at the right time, that's the two teams that should have won it. If we're going to have a playoff system, one of the things you have to accept is that sometimes the teams that win are the teams that are built for a playoff type system and get hot at the right time. May not be the two best teams, and we saw that this year. The Cinderella thing. Arizona State was one play away from beating Texas.
Yeah, but they were also the Big 12 champions.
They're seen as a Cinderella.
I get it. But at least they came from a Power 5 and not the.
They're seen as a Cinderella.
Yeah. Were you looking at Arizona State and going?
No, but it's recency bias because you look at the year before when they suck. So your recency bias says, they shouldn't be here. But if it would have been SMU, that would have been bigger Cinderella to me.
You mean because they were picked to finish dead last in the Big 12?
Yes,
Is that what you're talking
that's
about
the recency bias.
Yeah.
You know. And
I get that. Even though when they got in there, Arizona State was one of those teams that first third of the season they looked okay, and then they kind of gelled and looked really solid up through the Big 12 title game.
So, to finish outlining kind of what I was saying earlier, so there'd be 4 teams from the Big 10. I kind of went the long route instead of going the short route to explaining.
You have a little Rob in you.
I do?
Yeah, go.
4 automatic.
It's a lineman thing.
From the Big 10, 4 automatic from the SEC, 2 Big 12, 2 ACC. That gets you to 12.
Yeah.
Then there's the automatic highest rated G5 team. And then there's the open spot, which is, let's be honest, it's there for Notre Dame. So basically, if they're rated in the top 14, there's a rule that they'd be in, or it's open for someone else. But breaking it down more was kind of how I outlined the ACC and Big 12 having play-in games, and then the Big 10 having play-in games. And so I like the 14-team format because if you go the 16-team format, there's no first-round bye. The Big 10, the SEC championship game, Georgia, Texas, Oregon, Penn State, all of a sudden, who really cares if you win or lose? Now, if you win that game, depending on how the byes are allocated, the bye matters. That game meaning more is more exciting to me, with all due respect, than Georgia playing whoever the 16 seed was this year, which might be a 4-loss team. So to me, that's a blowout probably. You never know. It is college football versus games that are going to matter more. To the bye thing, I would start the playoffs. The playoffs need to end either on New Year's Day or the week following. I kind of like the semifinals being the Rose Bowl and the Sugar Bowl. I kind of like that.
I'm with you.
So then it would end the next week, but there's a lot of people who want the Rose Bowl to be the national title, which I'm okay with. I'd prefer the semifinals. I just like more football on New Year's Day, to be honest with you. But if you started the playoffs the very next weekend after championship weekend, then I like a bye. But if you're going to wait a couple weeks, I don't want that bye. Now it hurts me, in my opinion.
And that I can, pun unintended, that I can buy into.
Mm-hmm.
That one. If you're going to have a system that has bye weeks, start it right away.
Yes.
Yeah, that makes a lot of sense.
Get up and running. And in that setting, I could say, okay, sometimes you want a little bit of time off, heal up some guys, that kind of thing. And in that setting, I totally get it. But yeah, the whole we're going to wait 3-4 weeks and then start the playoff. It's just bad idea in my book.
If you look at this year, seeds 5 through 8 went 8-0 in the first 2 rounds. They had the home field advantage the first round. Then they didn't have the 25-day layoff in the second round. They didn't lose a football game until the semis when they had to play each other. They went 8-0 until then.
Wow.
And to your Cinderella thing, One thing, I like 8 to 10 teams personally because I like the regular season to matter more, in my humble opinion. The larger you go, it
gets watered down.
It gets watered down too much, in my humble opinion. Okay, but at the same time, if you're only letting 4 teams in, you are leaving somebody out who could win it. Case in point, this year, Ohio State was ranked, seeded, rated, whatever you want to call it.
They were
8,
7 or 8,
and Notre Dame was like 6 or 7. So I've always, in my entire life, ever since I was in high school, I was like 8, maybe 10 would be the most, and then you'd have the play in 7, 10, 8, 9, 1 through 6 get a bye, if I were to do it. But to your Cinderella thing, the reason I like more teams is because I'm one of the few guys. I know the G5 teams probably aren't going to win it all. But how do we know? How do we know? I hate it when people think their opinion is more important than what actually happens. We haven't seen it play out, and we don't know. I want them to get a chance. And if they get waxed, teams get waxed all the time.
And maybe roster limits helps that now?
Dude, there's going to be more balance than ever. I think if Boise State doesn't have a 25-day layoff, they played Penn State decently. They fell behind early, which every team that had a bye did. We watch Georgia, you watch Oregon, you watch Boise.
Yeah.
Arizona State looked terrible. They were down 17-0 to begin with. So to me, I wonder what they could have done without the bye. To your point with the Cinderella, I like more teams getting in only because it gives more Cinderellas a chance. But the problem is the less games you play, the more likely you are to get a Cinderella story. The more games Boise has to win versus the big boys, the less likely it is to happen. So it's kind of a catch-22. I could almost argue when Cincinnati was in that 4-team playoff years ago, they had the best chance to be a Cinderella because they only had to win 2 games. It just didn't happen. So,
which, the point you made about the roster limit spreading talent, I mean, we talked about that last fall, that this is probably something that's going to change the nature of I mean, I don't think you're going to see, unless you find another guy who's a true Nick Saban, I don't think you're going to see another Nick Saban Alabama type dynasty where somebody rattles off 6 or 7 national titles in a couple of decades.
Tougher.
So I think that changes the dynamic of this. The other thing is about the whole Cinderella thing is for that Cinderella effect to have an impact. What happens if a Boise or an SMU wins that game? They come out, guns blazing, they knock off the big dog right out of the gate. Even if they lose the next week, the entire complexion of a playoff gets changed.
It does.
I love that idea, but everyone just bashes the G5. They want them to have their, okay, what are your guys? First of all, you got to remember when I do a show, it's just me talking.
Yes.
So that's what I'm used to. Okay.
Is this weird for you?
No, I've done 1-minute content. I've done 10-minute content. Now I have a 2-hour show on the ticket. I've had co-hosts. So I'm used to anything. You just got to remember that's what I'm the most used to. So I'm not trying to talk too much. It's just what happens. What were we talking about? I got sidetracked.
We were talking about the Cinderella.
Well, like the Cinderella, even if
G5. I got it. Go ahead.
Even if that Cinderella team, like let's say Arkansas State or Texas San Antonio, somehow sneaks into the playoffs 4 years from now, and they knock off a Michigan in the first round. And they knock off a 1, 2, 3, 4 seed first round.
Yep. Completely
changes the dynamic of the playoff. And we saw that happen this year where, like I said, everybody was like, and we just talked about it ourselves. 2 best teams going in, Oregon, Georgia. Oregon and Georgia's first game, and again, I know you made the point about the bye affecting them, and it did. I totally agree with you. But right now, you just took the 1 and 2 seed, and they're gone. Completely changed how
happens in basketball all the time.
All of a sudden, everybody.
We haven't lost a 1 seed yet, but it will probably. But it happens.
It's a hell of a smaller bracket, but after Oregon played and Georgia played and both lost, pretty much everybody's bracket for the football playoff this year was busted. After that, it was like, oh shit, this could go 10 different ways now. Well, not 10, about 4, but it's all of a sudden it's like, it's not Oregon or Georgia's playoff anymore.
Yep. I still remember App State beating Michigan, who was a top 5 team in 07.
It happens.
Tulane beat USC in the Cotton Bowl a couple of years ago. I actually, because I love upsets rather than watching the 5 seed play the 12 seed. And as 2 teams I'm somewhat interested in, but I'm supposed to care because it's a playoff. Oh, wait, it's another blowout. Zippity doo dah. I get more intrigued by, and I know it's not going to happen a ton. Let's say it happens once every 5 years. You get an App State over Michigan. To me, I'm sitting here talking about that 18 years later. I know not a lot of people do, but I love that type of stuff. And so I get excited about the potential upset and teams actually getting beat versus people just saying they don't deserve a shot. What I was going to ask, and then I lost my train of thought, but I got it back. A lot of people want the G5 teams to go do their own tournament. What do you guys think of that? Because I don't like it.
Well, I struggle with it.
The NIT to me. Well, I don't care about the NIT, the not interested tournament.
To me, well, it's really not interested because of the Crown, which is Nebraska's going to play in. The Crown has totally decimated the NIT. I digress. I guess
so
I look at
that's now the
because they're all going to Vegas and they're going to do this like 5-day tournament, and that's
how do they differentiate who goes to the NIT and who goes to the Crown? Do you know?
Money.
Is that it?
I mean, Fox is putting this thing on with the Crown, and they've kind of they're offering much better deal than what the NIT.
Just about money. Okay.
Yeah, the NIT is just decimated now, which is fine. I look at it this way. I go, well, you could have it is about money. And we see what Conference USA, or was it the AAC, is mandating. You know, the Big Ten's going to spend their salary cap's $21 million. They're making them spend at least $10 million. So you've got a money gap right there. It's almost like, all right, just have your Power 5. There's your national title. You have the Group of 5. There's another national title. You have FCS. To me, it would just be a completely different division, and you could call it a national title based on your size of school and your investment level. I mean, FCS is that way because it only has 60 scholarships or whatever it is.
Yeah.
I mean, I don't know.
The argument I'd have against it, and it's a different argument than I think what you've got, Adam, is that I think financially, I think it would cripple the Group of 5. I think if you
exposure and whatnot,
all of a sudden
because they're getting money to be in Division I.
Yeah, I think all of a sudden I mean, the nature of it in terms of state-supported schools or the fact that they're private schools, the dynamics are a lot different financially. That I think if you all of a sudden took the Group of 5, I mean, I think D2, D3, FCS really actually, and I think FCS, I mean, for 2 decades, FCS has been on sort of this path to move up to where Group of 5 is at now. And so I think those schools sit in kind of a little bit of a sweet spot, except I think the FCS schools have kind of grown out of that financial sweet spot where they're sitting here going, okay, we're kind of in this position now where we're paying coaches way more. NIL's becoming a little bit of a factor, especially at schools like South Dakota State, North Dakota State, the two Montana schools.
You're getting separation there because Montana and South Dakota and North Dakota, those are the only games in town. Northern Iowa, they're going against Iowa and Iowa State for money and fans and everything like that. Their financial situation is completely different than South Dakota State and North Dakota State. And let's not forget, South Dakota State's telling Nebraska kids and Iowa kids, oh, by the way, we can offer you in-state tuition because they go, hey, Northern Iowa can't do that. If you're from Nebraska, you have to pay out-of-state tuition.
And I get it. And that's, I think, helped the Montana and Dakota schools a ton. But I think if you create a separate division for Group of 5, I think those schools have a hard time holding on to football as a sport.
That's fair. That's
just I hadn't even thought about that.
Yeah, just from a pure cost thing. If you keep them within that D1 system where they're, hey, your conference champ's going to have a chance to get into the playoff here, I think it financially keeps them afloat.
Just remember, there is a North Dakota and a Montana State as well, so there's a little bit of competition there. I kind of alluded to it. Like, I like the potential Cinderella and underdog story. To me, that makes it worth it. It's not going to be March Madness.
And I do like that. And like I said, I don't think you ever, I mean, you made the point that you're not going to see the classic basketball Cinderella.
No, it's different.
That makes it all the way to the Sweet 16 or the Final Four. That's not going to happen. But you can have that group of 5 team come in. They get insanely hot. They have that great game in the first round, and they knock off a big dog, which then changes the whole complexion of the tournament like it did this year when Oregon and Georgia went out.
I think that makes it incredibly exciting. Even a 1-game upset. What if a team makes a 2-game run? The excitement that would cause for me would be incredibly exciting. To your point about the seeding earlier. So another problem that they have right now, which is going away, I think next year, everybody has to agree. In other words, the Mountain West Conference commissioner has to say, oh, we're cool with being left out.
Yeah.
He's not going to do that, which is why those automatic bids happen too.
Yeah, because they have to get a unanimous decision this year, and then next year when it goes to the new contract, that's when you're going to see the Big Ten and the SEC flex their muscle and say it's our rules or nobody else's rules.
Sure.
And what I meant by the Montana State, Montana, South Dakota State, South Dakota, it wasn't that they didn't have competition there, but they're all on the same playing field. In Iowa, you got Northern Iowa, which is FCS, and then you've got Iowa and Iowa State.
Oh, D1, is that what you mean?
Yeah, that's what I mean. Is that they're not going against a powerhouse where, let's say you had let's say UNO still had football. I'm sorry, I know that brings up but
you just turned heel on everybody.
I did, but you know what I mean. It's hard to get that level of support when you have that level. Before we move on, I do want to remind everybody: if you are not wearing Gdefy shoes, you are missing out. I'm wearing my Gdefys right now. Dr. Rob wears his Gdefys during surgery and everywhere else. Gdefy shoes with their patented VersoShock technology will just do wonders for your feet, for your joints, for your ankles, for your knees, because you're going to walk better, you're going to feel better. I walked 10 miles a day in Italy, and all I wore was my Gdefys. 10 miles a day about. And it was, I know.
So that's how you burned off all that food you ate.
Yeah, that's right. Ate like a king. If you want to, just go to gdefy.com. That's GDEFY.com. Enter the promo code DocTalk50, and you're going to get yourself one hell of a discount. It's Gdefy shoes. Walk better, run better, do everything better wearing a pair of Gdefys. This is hard for me to admit. You know, I know Adam loves the pro wrestling. You give him a cage, he's a big dude. But Nebraska has surpassed Iowa in wrestling. It has surpassed Iowa in wrestling.
Look at you saying that.
Wow.
I love it. I love
it. Nebraska finishes second in the NCAA tournament. Mark Manning, your NCAA tournament coach of the year. Nebraska with 2 individual champions.
1 runner-up.
8
All-Americans.
And it is... I mean, it's Penn State and everybody else, but right now it's Penn State.
That fight for second place is kind of a big deal.
But it wasn't even close this year, right? I mean, you had Nebraska with a pretty good I mean, Iowa only scored 80 points to finish 4th.
The one school that I think people really need to keep an eye on going forward is Oklahoma State.
Yeah.
They made a hell of a push this year. They hit the portal hard, so you had a lot of transfers in. But you got David Taylor, former Penn State guy. You got Thomas Gilman, who is an Omaha Scott, University of Iowa guy, but actually left for his Olympic training, actually left Iowa to go to Penn State to do his Olympic training. So you've now got Thomas Gilman and David Taylor down at Oklahoma State now, and I think they're gonna start doing some damage here over the next couple of years.
The funny thing is, for how much you love pro wrestling, I was shocked when you said you're not really into regular wrestling.
So there's a difference between understanding and being into. I'm into it. I don't even know how that guy scored 3 points just by a double leg takedown at the end to beat Gable Steveson and win a national title. Okay, real quick, before we dive into it, I pulled this up because I want to say their names right. Shout out to Ridge Lovett, who's a national champion, and Ontrell Roll. I'm sorry. See, I still said it wrong.
Football.
Ontrell Taylor for winning a national title as well, and Mark Manning, one of the best to ever do it. Flies way too far under the radar. I was so happy to see him win the tournament of the year, and the national tournament.
And he's one of the true good guys in the sport.
Dude, I love that guy.
He is if you ever meet him, he is like the nicest dude you will ever meet. He's great with fans. He's great with other coaches. He's got a son who wrestles down in Lincoln, high school down in Lincoln.
Yeah.
And so it's like I'd see him all the time at high school wrestling tournaments, and walk up, say hi, and it's just like he'll sit there and talk wrestling with you and what the season outlook's going to be. And great guy though.
I was in Troy's office about a month and a half ago, and we were just talking about wrestling, and it was right after the Iowa-Nebraska duel, which
Nebraska, that's another one of those. I know you don't say this, but they should have won.
I don't disagree with you, but he looked at me and goes, I'm not worried because what really matters is tournaments. He goes, we'll beat him in the tournaments. And he wasn't wrong. Beat him in the Big Ten tournament, beat him in the national tournament. That was wrestling is so unique in that the match was the Gable Stevenson match, right? But you watch that, you can watch it on TV and just feel the intenseness of what was happening and what was taking place.
Dude, when Wyatt, so with 41 seconds to go, you guys probably already know this, but for those who didn't see it, was 4-2. Gable was up on Wyatt Hendrickson. Yep. And with about 30 seconds to go, he gets the double leg takedown, gets the 3 points, goes up 5-4. I'm like, wow, that's worth 3 points. That's amazing. Why is that? Maybe you can explain that to me at some point. But watch the crowd. It's going crazy. Yes. Did you hear the announcer?
Yeah.
As it's ticking down, he goes, 13 seconds! And he starts like freaking out. And I'm like, this is awesome.
And you see Gable.
It was so cool.
When you see Gable look up and he looks over at the clock and it's like, how much time do I have?
Like he can't believe it.
If he gets an escape, it's 1 point and he ties it, and he gets that leg up, he stands up, and Hendrickson takes him back down. Takes him back down, and that ended.
I will say this. I've been to a lot of sporting events in my lifetime. The best single sporting event I've ever been to has been, now this was Oklahoma State, Iowa years ago at Carver Hawkeye. And it wasn't just because it was Iowa, it was Carver Hawkeye. It was the intensity of the crowd in a stadium like that. I mean, Nebraska, Colorado still probably in 94 was still my favorite football game I've ever been to. But as far as sporting event, as far as feeling electricity, there's nothing better than a wrestling duel with a pack, with everybody understanding what's going on. And I think
people, you're going to know this better than me, but what I've been around, they are passionate fans.
Yeah.
Passionate.
I understand it's a little bit of a niche sport. It's a small following relative to like football, basketball, baseball, even volleyball. But God, you hit the nail on the head. Mm-hmm. It's the people who love it really, really love it. And I mean, if you look at like an Iowa-Penn State duel, a Nebraska-Iowa duel, an Iowa-Oklahoma State duel, Iowa-Oklahoma State duels there. Yeah. They try to do like one, I think they try to go every year.
Yeah, it was in Stillwater this year. Iowa won that one too, which was surprising. But they just don't do well in tournaments for some reason. But tournaments are all that matters.
Well, they won the national title in 21.
Yeah, but, people are getting sick of the brands. They're getting sick of them.
They're as coaches within the wrestling world, they're pretty polarized.
Yeah, they were polarizing wrestlers. They were good wrestlers.
Yeah.
So hey, I was thinking of you the other day because you're a big WWE guy. Are you a UFC guy too?
Not as much.
Because in Des Moines, they're going to do WWE on a Friday night, UFC on a Saturday night. And I was like, I wonder if Adam would like something like that. But UFC's different.
I think that would be fun. I'm not, like if I'm channel surfing and I pop across a UFC event, it can be kind of polarizing because, there's probably few sports that are as violent as that. Mm-hmm. Boxing included.
Well, I was watching UFC for a little bit. Then I went to it when it was at the old Civic Auditorium, and I was ringside, and I'm like, I can't watch this. It's just not normal to watch people beat the shit out of each other like this. And it was just, it bothered me. Not that I don't judge people for it, but it wasn't my thing after seeing it in person.
The thing I do like about UFC is that
they stop it when it needs to be stopped?
Well, maybe, yeah. I guess I was thinking of it more in the sense there's kind of, if you're a combat sports guy, there's kind of something for everybody. Like the really, really good UFC guys almost always have a wrestling background. Yeah. It's rare the boxers are the guys who...
You got to have a ground game.
Mm. Exactly. And so if you're a wrestling guy, you can find something in UFC to like. Mm-hmm. If you're a boxing guy, you can find something in UFC to watch. If you're more of a classic martial arts guy. You got, I mean, all these guys are doing jujitsu. You got something to watch. So it's kind of one of these, I understand the appeal of it because wrestling people like UFC, boxing people like UFC, the traditional Asian, South American martial arts folks love UFC. So, I mean, it pulls together a lot of different genres into one. So that part of it I kind of enjoy.
For me, I actually really like UFC. But as we chatted about, I'm so busy watching football, basketball, baseball, softball, talking about all those things, then general college football, then general sports, and then I've got kids in a ton of sports. I just don't have time. But if you were to ask me, Adam, what's the best type of fighting? Boxing, if you want to throw wrestling in there to a degree, Brazilian jiu-jitsu, whatever you want to say, Krav Maga, what's the best true way to find who the best actual fighter is? I'd point straight to UFC because it's got everything. Okay, like if I'm a UFC fighter, I may not be the best boxer, but whoever that guy was that tried to fight Logan Paul in the boxing ring and then got embarrassed, but Logan didn't come to the UFC. Okay, you know what I mean? Like it's much easier because you're much more well-rounded of a fighter. To me, it's where, and I say this with all due respect to everybody who could kick the crap out of me that's in other self-defense genres, but to me, that's the best way to find the best true fighter because it's got everything.
Yeah, yeah.
And that totally makes sense to me.
You do have kids in sports. No regrets moving back to Lincoln because you were in Colorado for a long time.
One regret. One honest regret.
No mountains?
I wish we'd have done it sooner.
Really?
Yes.
Really?
So my wife and I
what triggered the move?
So my wife and I would talk about it once every year. It would get brought up once every year. And we always kind of knew it was there if we wanted to come back. And it was 2 Christmases ago, right after Christmas. I go, well, you want to have our yearly conversation? Should we go back to Nebraska? Because at some point we knew it would have to turn serious. And my wife goes, you know, Jacob's going into high school, right? And you know, Trinity's going into middle school. And we got the 3 youngers and Addison's in 8th grade. She goes, if we're going to do it, it's now or never. Because once Jacob starts high school and then the next year Addison goes, we're not moving after that. So we sat down and we had a real conversation. And this is going to sound bad, so you got to bear with me. She said yes. I said no. I said no because her big thing for moving back, other than we love Nebraska, we got family here, friends. I'm seeing people I ain't seen in 17 years, and it's awesome. My big hesitation, because her big thing was your job will be 1,000 times easier to do there. And she is not wrong. I was not okay with moving because of what I do for a living and uprooting the kids from their friends, their schools, their sport. And people can laugh at the youth sports thing. You get on a bad youth sports team with a bad coach, a kid can hate that sport forever.
True.
It doesn't have to be perfect. I just want a good experience. We had gone through the rigors and found like the baseball club that worked for Jacob and the softball club for Addie and the volleyball, and they were all in good spots. They had friends, they had their school. And I'm like, we're not uprooting for my job. I can do this here. I've done it for 10 years. Would it be 1,000 times easier there? Yeah, probably 10,000. It wasn't until I talked to a whole bunch of people and I got to learn the schools and Moore and Clefcorn and Standing Bear, and I got to meet with the ADs and stuff. And I was like, I know where the good spots are, at least to start with. And I'm now convinced this actually might be better for the academics in Lincoln are better. They just are. It's not even close. And I was like, I actually think it might be better. And now I'm okay with it. And now it's better for my job. Once I was okay with it being better for the kids, then I was okay with moving, but my job was not going to be the reason. Now that we're here, dude, I've always loved Nebraska. That never went away. I wish we'd have done it sooner. The people, the folks I haven't seen in so long, the friends, the family, my job is 10,000 times easier. Like being able to come and do this with you guys is just awesome instead of sitting in the car on my phone before my daughter's softball game. Like, I wish we'd have done it sooner.
And you got a football camp coming up, right?
I do, yeah. The Carriker Chronicles football camp, which will be July 9th in Lincoln, 9 a.m. to 1 p.m. And like Eric Crouch is going to be there. Amon's going to be there. I'm going to be there. Would you love to be there? Because we'd love to have you if you're available. You're not knocking people out.
Shoot me a text. What day of the week is it?
Wednesday.
Shoot me a text.
Okay, we'll communicate.
I might be giving drugs to people, but if I'm not.
And you love giving drugs to people.
I do like to give drugs to people.
We're just going to leave it there. Just let that hang out there in the universe. I like that. You guys are always welcome at anything I ever do, by the way.
I like to watch people sleep.
That just made it better. I love that.
For sure.
Kind of freaks me out a little bit, man. You just freaked me out a little bit.
I'm the king of like true and not at all unawkward phrase.
Yeah.
Dude, I love that, though. You're so comfortable with being uncomfortable. That's awesome.
Oh, yeah, I'll totally watch it while you're sleeping. And then I'm going to give you more drugs. Where's your wife from?
So Brule. Have you ever heard of Brule out in western Nebraska?
Yeah.
Okay.
If you would ask me, where is it exactly?
Yeah.
No clue. Have I heard of it? Yes.
We say Ogallala if people haven't heard Brule, but western Nebraska, right, not too far from Lake McConaughey, about 20 minutes or so.
God's
So,
country.
yeah.
That's my favorite
God's
part.
country.
It is pretty out there.
Yeah, we're actually going out to Fort Robinson again in June.
You do that every year?
About every other year. So I love the Northwest Panhandle, man. It's my favorite part of Nebraska. It really is. Now, the weird thing is to get here from Omaha, it's an 8-hour drive.
Yeah, it's a pain in the
if I go
ass
8
to get
hours
up there.
east, I'm in like Indiana. I go 8 hours west, I'm still in Nebraska. It's crazy.
It's funny how that works.
It really, really. I mean, I can get to Denver faster than I can get to Fort Robinson.
Yeah.
That's what's crazy.
If you haul ass, you're in Denver.
Yeah.
What, like 7?
It's about 7 hours.
Yeah.
So it's $135 did I see, and then it's just a 1-day camp.
Yeah. So I've got some ideas. I've always wanted to do things with camp, just having kids, loving sports. I've been coaching club sports for 9 years, or it could be YMCA, whatever. I just love coaching, helping kids. And so I've wanted to do this for a long time. Where we lived before, we did it in conjunction with some other people. I looked at my wife, I'm like, man, if we ever lived in Nebraska, do you have any idea how much easier this would be and how it's even more awesome it would be? And it was like, well, we're in Nebraska, so let's light this freaking candle. So I've got all sorts of ideas, maybe doing a high school camp in Omaha next year, maybe doing position-specific camps, quarterback, lineman. I'm an all-sports guy. I'm half tempted to pick up the phone and call Alex Gordon and be like, you want to do a baseball camp? Hey, does X, Y, and Z want to do a basketball camp? We're just starting with this. So it is 1 day, July 9th, 9 a.m. to 1 p.m. It's going to go great, but we're just going to see how this goes and kind of build from there. And if people are interested, they want to sign up their kids, just go to carrikerchronicles.com. It's kind of all over the website.
Cool. Very, very cool. You see, Alex Gordon just got in the Royals Hall of Fame, too?
Yep.
That was a big deal.
That's awesome.
Lincoln Southeast.
Yeah.
It's that other school in Lincoln. So where are your kids going to end up going to high school?
Standing Bear.
Standing Bear?
Yep, Standing Bear.
They could go to East, but I think he said the academics isn't that good, so they're going to go to Standing Bear.
Damn.
I don't remember saying that.
I might have just taken a little
Standing
liberty.
Bears,
with that.
that's one of the new schools.
Brand new.
Yeah.
That's second year of existence. They don't even have seniors yet.
Oh, wow.
Oh, that'd be weird. Adam, I tell you what, we could go another hour, but I want to be respectful of your time. Got to be respectful of Dr. Rob's time. Got to be respectful of my son's time, who hangs out with,
We should respect Owen's
Yeah,
time.
we should respect Owen's time. We
Do a great
really,
job.
really should. Real quickly, if you're looking for some Husker gear, make sure to go to Husker Hounds, 2 locations in the Omaha area. Scotty Strunk will set you up. He's got the best Husker gear throughout the state, throughout the nation. Go to the Superstore at 84th and Center or shop online at huskerhounds.com. And if you're in need of legal representation, estate planning, litigation, there's only one guy to call. Matter of fact, I've been on the phone with him several times in the last couple months, and he's been on a text group as well. Connor Orr is the official lawyer of the Husker Doc Talk Podcast. Go to orrlawgrp.com. That's orrlawgrp.com. And get yourself a pair of Gdefys. Your feet will love you so much if you get Gdefy Shoes at gdefy.com. Put in the promo code DocTalk50. You can find the podcast on Husker Max, also at DocTalkSports.com. For Dr. Rob Zatechka, for Adam Carriker, for Owen Justice, I'm Travis Justice. We'll talk to you next time on the Doc Talk Podcast.